The subcommittee will come to order. I'd like to thank the ranking member Espaillat and the ranking member of our full committee, Ms. DeLauro, for joining us today. I'd like to extend a particularly warm welcome to the new members of our subcommittee, Representative Nick LaLota, Representative Dale Strong, Representative Celeste Malloy, and our new vice chair, Representative Riley Moore, Representative Steny Hoyer. I look forward to working together in a bipartisan fashion as we begin the fiscal year 2026 process. The purpose of today's oversight hearing is to review the status of public safety and security of the Capitol complex, learn about recent breaches to the campus, and hear about the new actions that United States Capitol Police Chief of Police and his leadership team are taking to address these lapses. I want to begin by welcoming Chief Manger and congratulating him on his upcoming retirement. Thank you, Chief, for your years of leadership and service to the Capitol community. We appreciate your dedication and work you have done to enhance the safety and security of each member, our families and staff, and especially our constituents while visiting the nation's capital. I also want to thank each and every officer in the United States Capitol Police. Each member of Congress is keenly aware of your diligent efforts and that many of your heroic actions are never made public, but please know that you are seen and appreciated. We appreciate your recent successes in multiple back-to-back national special security events, such as the 60th inaugural ceremonies and the most recent President Joint Address. While we certainly appreciate and have come to expect these successes, we also recognize the continued success in your mission requires some change, some refocusing and retraining, and especially increased consistency and vigilance. We will learn in more detail from Chief Manger in his testimony. Over the past months, the Capitol complex has experienced several security lapses in which members of the public and even staff members have entered our buildings with items that are prohibited but have gone undetected by our officers. These breaches are unacceptable and cannot be permitted to continue. That being said, we do not want a few human errors to wipe out your record of success in keeping our community safe. Additionally, I want to note that the safety and security of the Capitol complex does not solely rest on the soldiers of our Capitol police officers. As members, staff, and visitors, we have an obligation to understand the safety protocols of the Capitol complex and to follow them. Recently, the House Sergeant of Arms shared a communication reminding all of us of our responsibility to cooperate with law enforcement by ensuring that we do not attempt to bring prohibited items onto the premises and following our other security practices. We have copies of this document at the hearing today, and I encourage members and their staff to reinforce these expectations with your colleagues as well as your constituents. It is when we all work together that we can have and ensure the greatest level of safety for us. Chief Manger, we appreciate your partnership as we have worked to ensure the Capitol campuses remain secure and safe for Congress's essential legislative operations and for the millions of visitors who come to see the democracy in action in the United States Capitol. I look forward to your testimony. I now yield to the ranking member, Mr. Espaillat, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Chairman Valadeo. Thank you for your work and your desire to continue to work in a bipartisan manner. I also want to thank our ranking member, Rosa DeLauro, for joining us today, and extend my gratitude to the officers of the Capitol Police for their service. And of course, you, Chief, you've been tremendous. You've been someone that has never said no, always came when we asked you to come, always transparent with your answers, a leader among the police, Capitol Police officers, the men and women of the Capitol Police, someone that I acknowledge you implemented 103 IG recommendations and 6 GAO recommendations, an achievement that reflects your commitment to the institution and the security of the campus. Congratulations on your requirement, well deserved. And whereas my chairman acknowledged the work that you've done in the inaugural and other ceremonies, I also want to acknowledge perhaps the one moment where the men and women of your department show the leadership and the patriotism that we're all very proud of, and that was January 6th, when you defended our lives, you defended the lives of visitors and staff working in our offices, but most importantly, regardless of what party we're with, you defended all of us. And the other day, I was walking through Longworth, just outside of the Ways and Means Committee, where members of Congress of the House of Representatives huddled, both Republicans and Democrats, I may add, when they were kept safe there. And I saw one of the aggressors there that was arrested and released, having a major press conference. I felt appalled about that, but I wanted to distinguish your service today. And I want to express also my disappointment that a plaque honoring the officers who protected us in the Capitol has not yet been installed. This is really unexcusable. Today we're here to discuss Capitol safety. Chief, since 2022, we have increased your budget to enhance the safety of the Capitol complex. Recent security breaches, particularly in building entrances, have been unacceptable. I'm sure that both of us are working here to improve on that. We cannot allow weapons or ammunition to enter campus, and we cannot tolerate lapses in security protocols, so everybody's life will be in danger. Again, visitors, people that work for us and for the country, as well as members. And the Capitol campus, although better secure under your leadership, still has many challenges. Security requires partnership, and I am confident that the Chairman Valadeo, and I will work together to try to accomplish that security. Yet, when you requested fewer entry points for better control, pressure was put upon to reopen them. Officers risk their lives daily, yet honoring their sacrifice remains something important. Millions were spent repairing damage from January 6th, yet those responsible were pardoned and welcomed back. And unfortunately, due to the recent partisan CR, funding will be frozen for the next year. Leadership is about accountability. This hearing, ranking members, should be a forum for solutions. Let's give the department the support it needs to correct course and secure the people's house. Chief, we look forward to hearing from you in the future and your plans. You're always welcome back here. Thank you so much for your service. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Espaillat. And now I'd like to recognize Ranking Member of the full committee, Ms. DeLauro, for her opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Espaillat. Thank you for holding this hearing. And there are so many accolades that we can and will bestow upon you, Chief. It's for my purposes, you reassure all of you, you reassure my family that I'm safe here, and you take care of that, and you've made it your life's work here, and we are all grateful, and we are indebted to you and to the Capitol Police every single day. You know, you're there for us, and I can't tell you, what that means. And we don't say thank you enough to people for their commitment, their courage. They leave their homes, their families every day to come here and to protect all of us. And it's not unnoticed. It is not unnoticed. Please understand that. And we do thank you for your service. Sometimes that phrase doesn't mean as much as we would like it to mean, but we know we wish you well in retirement, and we hope that you will continue to be an advisor to what our direction should be here. It's about the dedicated men and women of the Capitol Police protecting members of Congress, protecting our staff, all the workers in this complex. As my colleague mentioned, official business visitors, millions of tourists who visit Washington, D.C. Annually. You keep us safe within and around the Capitol grounds. Keeping Capitol complex buildings secure and the people within them safe, it is a matter of national security, and thus a matter of utmost consequence to the American people. The department, to you, to the officers, to the support staff, thanks for protecting all of the people and this complex from all sorts of threats. And you probably know so much more than we do about what those threats are, but you guys handle it, and you women handle it every single day. And you know, capital safety and security is a bipartisan priority. I look forward to discussing how this subcommittee can ensure we are making the proper investments in the department to ensure that taxpayers' dollars are wisely and efficiently used to fulfill the Capitol Police's mission. However, there have been a number of challenges and some serious breaches of our security that must be addressed. I applaud the department for its actions in the wake of January 6, 2021, that breach of the Capitol. And like so many others, I was one of the members that was evacuated and again protected by the Capitol Police. And thank you for implementing many of the recommendations made to prevent such an event from occurring in the future. Meanwhile, though there have been lapses in complex security that give us all great concern, the tolerable number of firearms entering the complex that are carried by anyone, but those explicitly authorized to do should be zero. It should be zero. We need to understand in explicit detail without divulging sensitive information why that has not been the case, and what the department has done and will do, and what the department needs from us to ensure these security lapses are not just minimized, but completely eliminated. If there is daylight between what you believe needs to take place to keep the Capitol complex safe and what you and your department are being asked and required to do, we need to illuminate that. And we need to understand the potential ramifications and consequences. Finally, I would like to know how working under a continuing resolution rather than a full-year funding bill that addresses current and near future needs and issues affects your operations and the safety and the security of the Capitol complex. It is regrettable that this committee failed to finish its job, instead threw in the towel, in my view, on fiscal year 2021 funding, 2025 funding bills. We were, and I can say that with some knowledge, we were on the brink of a bipartisan agreement between the four corners of the Appropriations Committees when the House majority decided to upend the process and pursue a partisan bill that does not meet the needs of any department or agency across the government, and that instead handed a blank check to Elon Musk and to President Trump. I implore this committee, let us get back on track to work towards bipartisan consensus for this subcommittee's bill and the rest of the appropriations bills for 2026. I thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member DeLauro. Chief Manger, again, I apologize for the delay and keeping you waiting, but I appreciate you being here. Your full testimony has been submitted for the record, and you are now recognized to provide a summary of your written testimony.
Thank you. Chairman Valdeo, Ranking Member Espiat, Ranking Member DeLauro, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of the comprehensive steps the department has taken in light of recent security incidents. Any security failure is of grave concern to both me and my officers. These failures will not be tolerated. Each year, our department safely and effectively screens over 8 million staff and visitors who enter our office buildings, the libraries, the Capitol, and the CVC. However, in light of the recent security incidents, the department is implementing new measures to ensure security screening is as effective as possible, addressing human interactions, technology, and the careful use of artificial intelligence. The efforts that the department is undertaking are being made to ensure that the security failings that we have experienced do not happen again. After the first security screening incident, all officers assigned to our Uniformed Services Bureau received mandatory training briefings related to security screening to reinforce the importance of always complying with training and policy. In addition, sergeants are now responsible for checking all of the posts under their supervision 3 times per shift and documenting these checks. This ensures that our officials are getting out to directly observe the officers performing their screening functions. These same supervisors have already completed a post-by-post review of all of the screening sites to remove any potential distractions from each post. We're also implementing a new security screening virtual audit via our USCP cameras. The goal of this program is to have officials randomly select a security screening post that would be monitored virtually during random times each day for a period of 1 week. In addition, the department has assigned a lieutenant as the security screening program manager, and this person is dedicated to ensuring the success of all of our security screening program initiatives. Starting this summer, all of our USB officers will have to take an updated security screening refresher training with an associated test. All USB officers will have to pass the test twice a year to maintain their certification to do security screening. The department is also in the process of restructuring some of the USB post rotations to ensure that officers are moving around and not standing at the same machine for a long period of time, leading to complacency. And the department has a team that is working on a best practices review of similar mission agencies such as U.S. Secret Service, TSA, and the Federal Protective Service so that we can benchmark our training, equipment, testing procedures, and other items as a baseline to identify any additional opportunities to improve. We anticipate the completion of this assessment by April 4th. In addition to all of these efforts, the department is revamping its pre-screener officer training. This training is centered around detecting abnormal behaviors in people as they approach our screening points. This will be a mandatory 2-hour class, and that began yesterday. The Department Security Services Bureau is responsible for the security equipment and infrastructure. It's important to note that none of these screening failures that occurred this year were as a result of technology or equipment failures. They were human error. In each case, our technology correctly identified the prohibited item that was being brought through the screening process. Starting in 2024, the department installed artificial intelligence, or AI software, on all of our X-ray machines. This AI software assists officers with identifying prohibited items and weapons. This effort was completed in 2024 as a proactive measure to identify another way of assisting our officers who are visually looking at the X-ray machines. We continue working with the AI software vendor to incorporate functionality that will provide a more dramatic visual alert and automatically stop the X-ray belt when a prohibited item is identified. The development of an additional enhancement called image projection is also being planned. This will add a non-threatening image onto the X-ray screen that officers will have to observe and acknowledge. This will allow the department to collect data on how many times these images are detected so that the department can assess how well the officers are paying attention to the X-ray screens. The department anticipates completion and implementation of these enhancements to the AI technology in May of this year. Security Services Bureau is conducting an overall assessment on the use of all of our screening equipment, including enhanced screening portals at the CVC screening entrances. At the end of the day, these security lapses were not an equipment failure, not a training failure, or a policy failure. They were, in fact, the hardest kind of failure to address, the human failure. In this threat environment, we don't get to have a bad day or make a mistake at our screening. I can assure you that I believe the efforts that I've described will address both human and technological errors that can cause these failures in the first place. With the continued support of the assistance of Congress, we will continue to meet our mission. I thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Chief Manger, for testifying before this committee today. I will now call on members based on seniority of those present when the hearing was called to order, alternating between the majority and minority, and then we'll call on members in order of their arrival. Each member will have 5 minutes. I now recognize myself for my 5 minutes. Given the recent human errors that led to the breaches in security that you mentioned in your testimony, what is the level of confidence that such failures will not happen again in the future?
On the part of, I think, the Capitol Police, I think there is a fair amount of confidence that we are addressing these failures. Anytime you look at, when we looked at the 3 different failures, and they were all different, we analyze how did this occur. You look at it through the lens of training, through policies, through equipment, and through supervision. And as you look through, you say, where was the single point of failure? Where did it occur? And what can we do to eliminate that single point of failure? So the training that we're doing, the technological enhancements that we are incorporating into the screening process we are confident that this will eliminate those single points of failure.
All right. As you noted, both in your testimony and your response to my prior question, you have taken a number of actions, both in for immediate change and near-term actions to improve the focus of the frontline officers at screening locations to address complacency and lack of attention. However, these issues seem to be systematic within the department. In a November 2023 U.S. Capitol Police Officer of the Inspector General report titled Top Management Challenges Facing the United States Capitol Police Fiscal Year 2024, it was noted that strong, integrated internal control systems are still needed. Further, the report noted that U.S. Capitol Police has historically tended to resolve individual issues rather than strengthening the underlying systematically weak controls causing the issues. With this observation in mind, what supervisory controls are you implementing to ensure that security breach issues do not reappear in the next 2 or even 6 months?
So all of these actions that we've taken have either already occurred or will be in place in the next month or two. So we're not, this is not something that we're going to implement, a year from now. I think what the Inspector General's report talked about was looking at the issues more globally rather than, well, in this case, it was the officer was distracted. In this case, the officer, was on their phone, or the officer missed this or that. So we're trying to look at how we can use equipment, the equipment to help us. When the artificial intelligence alerts on a prohibited item, it's still up to the officer. I mean, it's doing its job by alerting on an image. The officer still has to notice it. Even when, if a prohibited item comes through and the belt on the X-ray machine stops, the officer still has to it still requires an officer to take some action. So we think that all of this is trying to assist in that sort of single point of failure where one person could miss something and then you have a breach. Whether it is getting equipment where you have more than one set of eyes on a monitor, or just having backups, where the equipment's helping you. All of this is in our view, addresses the IG's recommendation that look at this as a bigger issue, not just, well, what was wrong in this case or that case.
All right. As you know, this committee has met the request for some of the newer security technology with X-rays and magnetometers, but is there anything else out there that can improve screening efforts? We've seen that not all the enhanced screening portals are in use.
Yes, there's always improving technology, and I think that long term, I think that that's something that we need to take a serious look at. But we also, one of the problems we have is that many of the screening locations throughout the campus are not ideal. They're too small, really, for doing an adequate screening. When you look at the way things are laid out in the CVC, that's as close to ideal as we can get. You have enough room and you're able to place officers in the positions where they need to be. You don't have people congregating at an elevator that are mingling, the non-screened people with screened people. There's a lot of locations that it's not ideal. So even if we had better equipment, the equipment's either too heavy or too big, or it just won't work. So long-term, I think we do need to look at all of the screening locations and see how we can improve them so that they're laid out better for a better result.
All right, well, thank you. My time's expired, and I now recognize Ranking Member Espaillat for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, as you mentioned in the statement, the recent security breaches, particularly at building entrances, have been unacceptable. During your testimony, you discussed the use of artificial intelligence to ensure security screening is as effective as possible. As you may know, I support the use of advanced technology, particularly artificial intelligence, to secure the campus. And so it's somewhat mind-boggling that as we move forward with artificial intelligence and other technologies, that we cannot really adopt them and be more secure. Can you update us on how advanced threat detection over open areas can help further secure our campus in this season of increased threats from lone actors? And if there's anything that you can shed on the artificial intelligence component, we appreciate it.
So as I mentioned, we installed the artificial intelligence in our X-ray machines last year. That artificial intelligence, there are advances every single day. In fact, yesterday I met with the vendor who provides us with the artificial intelligence, and he talked about the testing that they're doing and the improvements. Then we will, in fact, incorporate into our, make sure that we incorporate them into our machines. There's also the ability to use artificial intelligence in other venues where, not just at screening places, but if you have demonstrations or you have some sort of crowd that is creating some sort of disruption, that there's technology that we should explore that would allow us to have some idea whether the folks in that crowd have a prohibited item or a weapon on them. So all of this is technology, I think, that we need to continue to explore. And my hope is that we could get the support of this committee and frankly, of Congress using some of this technology. I know that there has been some hesitancy. For instance, one of the things I would love to see us get to is that as someone puts their bag on the X-ray machine, that there's a photo of the person that put the bag on the machine and a photo of the bag, so you can link the two. Right now, we have people, you've got, people in line, people are throwing their stuff on the bag. Half the time, you don't know whose bag belongs to who. And things like that we can, I think, be more precise and use the advancements in artificial intelligence to help us.
As you know, and I'm sure the chairman remembers that one of my pet peeves is, the fact that, the cars are swept in entrance to the Capitol, but yes, as the dogs are sweeping the cars, you have dozens of people, runners and cyclists with backpacks going right in unimpeded. And so I'm hopeful that this artificial intelligence model that we're looking to implement could have like a full body scan of these folks, and the campus itself will be better protected so that we're not wide open, if you may.
It's just a matter of having enough room to put that kind of technology at our screening locations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. Thank you, Chief, again for your service.
Mr. Espiat, Mr. Lalota, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Chief, thanks so much for being with us. Congratulations on your 45 years of service and your pending retirement. We appreciate what you do for us here at the Capitol and all your leadership over the years. I want to get into some numbers, Chief. Data provided to my office shows there are just under 2,200 sworn officers in the Capitol Police. Does that sound about right?
That's correct, yes.
And of those 2,200 sworn officers, approximately 1,600 are rank-and-file police officers.
That's
Does that sound
correct.
about right? And of the 2,200 sworn officers, approximately 210 are either sergeants or lieutenants. Is that about right?
I think that number's about right, yes.
I think I have it about 160 and 50 with respect to sergeants and lieutenants. Chief, can you describe some of the interactions between the sergeants and lieutenants and the police officers they supervise, what leadership they demonstrate, just generally speaking, the roles and responsibilities of the sergeants and lieutenants as they interact with the POs?
So first of all, sergeants, I think, are probably are the best barometer of a culture of an organization. You look at the first-line supervisors, you can tell a lot about an organization. And sergeants and lieutenants have both operational and administrative responsibilities. They're responsible for scheduling and timesheets and, all those kinds of things that will keep them in the office, busy with paperwork. But they're also responsible for the day-to-day operations of the officers under their supervision. And so what we expect is for those supervisors, and what we've, certainly one of the things we put into place after these breaches is the officers, the officials have to get out of the office and spend more time at the screening locations, making sure that the process and the officers are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. That too often you find first-line supervisors get caught up in all the paperwork and are not out doing as much supervision out in the field as they should, but they have the responsibility as both.
I wasn't a cop, but I was a military officer for a little while. My dad and both my grandfathers were cops, so I have an appreciation for that first-line supervisor concept. Can you describe a little more in detail about, with specificity, how often do the sergeants go visit the watch stations? What are they looking for? What standards are they looking to uphold and enforce at the specific watch stations throughout the Capitol, Chief?
So right now, in the Uniformed Services Division, and this is where all the uniformed officers, which include all of the screening points, they have been directed to, they have a certification sheet that they've got to fill out 3 times a day at every post where they have folks under their supervision working. So we've mandated that this happen frequently. Do I think that was occurring like that before? No, I don't. This is forcing them to come out. So at least 3 times a day, they are out supervising each post and documenting what they find.
Great, and you said in your testimony earlier, and I appreciate you being very forthright with us on these breaches. You said in your testimony they were not a result of technology or process, but they were more human error related. And you also mentioned these breaches could have likely been prevented had established protocols have been properly followed. How can you describe the job? You have 45 years of law enforcement experience. How can you describe some of the standards and culture that you experienced in other jobs before you got here to the one that's here? And are there any differences between the two? And could any of those differences be improved upon, Chief?
So I think one of the issues that we're dealing with here is human nature. As in the previous jobs that I had in previous departments, there was not the repetitive sort of assignment that we have here, especially if you're assigned to a screening post. And so, we've got to ensure that we take into consideration the fact that the human attention span is different for different people, but every single one of us has an attention span and as you fatigue, as you are involved in repetitive behavior, you start to lose a little bit of focus. So one of the things we looked at was how long are we going to keep people at a particular sitting on an X-ray machine, and so we're going to make sure that time is reduced to a point that nobody's there for hours on end, which I don't know that any of us would be able to retain the focus that we would want. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
It does, and with the 15 seconds or so that remaining, attention span is something that's important to us. Members of Congress, too, you're in a unique position where members of Congress review your department's interactions. With 5 or 10 seconds, what should we be focused on with our attention? You're not going to be here in a few months. Somebody else is going to fill your shoes. What guidance would you give us as you depart as to how to properly be the frontline supervisors for the brass of the Capitol PD?
I think that just to listen and consider, not only just the IG's recommendations and what some of the oversight folks will tell you, but the officials, the rank and file, the leadership of this department have one focus and one mission. And one of the things that when I got here, I never in a million years would have recognized or believed that about the dedication and the quality of leadership that we have all through the ranks. From you got patrol officers, and you know this from probably from your family. You've got people that may not have the rank on their sleeves, but they are leaders in this department, and you've got them at every rank in this department. And never question the dedication that these men and women have to making sure this is a safe campus and that every one of you remains safe. But we all still recruit from the human race. And so we have to continue to try and make sure through training and accountability and everything else we can use to make sure that we're giving these folks every opportunity to succeed.
Thanks for your 4.5 decades of leadership, Chief. We appreciate it. I yield.
Mr. Quigley, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chief, for being here and for your service. I want to follow up on that line of question, if I may, giving them every opportunity to succeed. I would imagine that some of that would include feedback on what they're thinking. Is there an official process for an officer to give a feedback on a process or how to improve things or how they're feeling about something that's taken place?
There is. Does everyone take advantage of it? No. There's still folks, unfortunately, that feel like, well, I'm not going to open my mouth because I might get retaliated against or might piss this person off or whatever. The fact of the matter is, we just finished a department-wide climate survey where it was, dozens and dozens of questions about what goes on in the department and how people feel about different things. I meet with and my leadership team meets with the FOP regularly, and we get feedback.
Let me ask let me just ask about two things that might have been on their minds. You were here. I wasn't pulled out of the chambers right away. We're upstairs and got stuck for a while. I tell everyone I wouldn't be here without the courage of the DC and the Capitol Police on that day. The fact that, as the ranking member referenced, we actually passed legislation commemorating the heroism that took place that day and asked that a plaque be put up. That still hasn't happened. However anybody feels about that, has there been feedback, some sense of how that might have impacted the morale of the rank and file?
I definitely think it impacts morale. I mean, look, the fact that January 6th was a pretty traumatic day for this campus and certainly for
How many officers were injured that day?
at least 140, I believe.
And
But-
and
but-
those that passed in the coming days?
Say again?
Police officers who we lost in the coming days immediately thereafter?
We lost a couple of them, yes.
Yeah.
But this, look, there's a wide divergence of opinions about what occurred on January 6th. And, but I will tell you, I know what my cops, how they feel. And I've spent the last 4 years trying to make sure that they know that their service was respected and that what they did was honorable. And, but, well, like with any, you have some officers that feel, feel okay about everything that has occurred. You've got others that look at the pardons and look at a bunch of other things and
Oh, so
say,
was this-
well, I guess people didn't care about us. The opinions run the gamut.
Was there any attempt at checking morale as it was affected by the plaque or specifically the pardons?
Well, I
I
would tell you.
can't believe it was split 50-50, but you tell me how people react.
You might, no one asked those specific questions, but I will tell you that I got an earful with regard to the pardons, and I made a statement to my officers and made a couple public statements about the fact that anytime, it doesn't matter who the president is, what party it is, anything. Anytime a police officer who is assaulted, someone who assaults a police officer gets pardoned, I think that cops all over this country would look at that and say, why are we doing what we're doing?
Yeah, there's more things I want to talk about, but Chairman, I don't want to break it up and get into that. I just want to know that I appreciate what the officers did that day. I had a firsthand view of it. Want to thank them every day for that because I think they say more than our lives, but where our republic was at the time. And we should put the plaque up. We're seeing now that those pardoned, many of them have been arrested since then. And I believe all that has done is encouraged others to act in a similar way in the future. So thank you again for your service and for being here today.
Mr. Strong, your 5 minutes.
Chief Manger, I want to thank you for your service to our nation for over 45 years and congratulate you on your upcoming retirement. I also want to extend my gratitude to all of the officers that work tirelessly every day to protect our Capitol, ensuring the safety of elected officials, government employees, and visitors alike. I'm glad that we're holding this hearing today to address the recent security challenges faced on the Capitol complex and examine ways to enhance the preparedness of our officers. As a first responder for over 4 decades, I've seen firsthand how crucial preparedness and readiness are during crisis situations. While we can never predict every potential crisis, we must prepare, evaluate, and adapt our strategies to ensure our officers are ready to act swiftly and effectively when needed. Chief Manger, how do you assess the current training programs for Capitol Police officers to ensure that they are prepared for the wide range of potential threats that they face?
I think they're good, but there's always room for improvement. We just did a learning needs assessment, which is a pretty global look at our training and how it could be improved. But I will tell you specifically toward addressing these issues of the security breaches, I think that our training is solid, our policy is solid. It's just making sure that the officers have this Look, if it's important, it's like firearms training. We do that twice a year. Well, now we're going to do the refresher training for the screening twice a year because it's that important.
Okay. You mentioned an updated security screening refresher training for officers with mandatory testing twice a year. Can you walk us through the specific areas of security screening that will be tested and the plan to track and analyze the effectiveness of this reoccurring training?
So the screening, there's a number of layers to screening. First, I mean, we start the screening process before somebody even gets into the building. We've got pre-screeners outside that are watching people as they approach the building. We've got, once they get in, they go through a magnetometer so that you can screen the person's body, their clothing that they're wearing, and then any packages that they have goes through screening as well. So it's a dual screening process of the person and anything they have with them, one of the key things is that if something alerts, whether it's the X-ray machine or whether it's the magnetometer, you've got to find out what's making it alert, and you don't stop the screening process until you determine what's making it alert.
I'd also like to focus on the procedures that directly follow security failures, such as the ones mentioned today. Can you describe the department's approach to post-incident evaluation? Specifically, how do the Capitol Police debrief after an event, and how do you apply lessons learned to future security planning?
So we put out an after-action report, and we allow anyone who was involved in this, from the newest officer up to the chief of police, to have input on that after-action report. And once we get all the comments from everybody who was involved, then we use that to look at it through the lens of training, the lens of supervision, through equipment, through all of those different lenses to determine what we can do to make sure that whatever went wrong doesn't happen again. And whatever went right,
That's right.
does happen again.
Good. Switching gears a bit, your testimony mentioned that the security screening failures this year were due to human error despite technology correctly identifying prohibitive items. How do you balance the role of technology such as the introduction of AI in X-ray machines and officers' critical oversight and decision-making responsibilities to avoid becoming overly reliant on automated systems?
Mr. Strong, that is a question that we have talked about, and an issue that we've talked about quite a bit over the last couple of months. And I think it has to do with training. It has to do with instilling this notion in the officers that it's not their job to look at a screen. It's their job to make sure that no prohibited items get into the building. And just to approach the training in such a way that they understand the importance that AI is a tool, this equipment is a tool, but it's up to them. They have the final responsibility to make sure nothing prohibited gets through.
Thank you, Chief. In a perfect world, staffing, K-9, morale, vehicles, equipment, technology, weapons, tactics, communication, what one thing would you change right now if you could?
you know, 46 years of being a cop, I'm telling you, I would, if there was a way that I could make cops understand, people do in fact appreciate what they do. It's not us versus them. It is that we are all part of this community, that the Capitol Police play a unique role in the congressional community, and to understand that, to take pride in that, and take that pride in their workmanship and translate that into making sure they're doing the best job that they can do. And so it really comes down to making sure these cops know how much they're appreciated.
You got it. Thank you, Chief, and I think each of those that work under your direction, you've done a phenomenal job. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Representative Malloy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Manger, thanks for being here. Thank you for your 40-plus years of public service. Everybody said it, but congratulations on your retirement. I really appreciate what you and your officers do here. And I love that we welcome the public into our buildings. And I know that you all have a responsibility to keep me, my colleagues, and our staff safe. So I recognize that you're balancing a lot of factors. I think you do a really great job of it. But as you pointed out, every one of the breaches was human error. And I recognize that officers are human. We're all human. And I'm guessing that humans who enjoy their work environment and feel appreciated are probably more conscientious at what they do. And we all want to see your officers be conscientious and successful at what they do. So I've been sitting here listening to all the questions. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a cough. And I'm concerned that there might be a temptation on the part of leadership in the Capitol Police to make changes to satisfy us that might hurt morale in the force. And so I just, at the end here with a few minutes left, I want to give you a chance to talk about that. Sorry. But let me set the stage for you just a little bit. The technological improvements you talked about sound great, but every breach was human error. The increased training sounds good too. But as I was listening, things like increasing the rotations and changing the setup at these checkpoints might make officers feel like they're being policed and treated like children. And we see the same officers a lot. We build up a good rapport with them. There are 438 of us and a lot of staff. And when people are at the same places a lot, they see us a lot and they recognize people. Can you just speak to how these changes in how personnel are handled might impact morale on the force?
So it is not lost on me that we had these 3 breaches, but that 99.999% of my officers were not involved in any of those. They made no mistakes.
Right.
And so when everybody had to go through the training, believe me, I understood the fact that a lot of them said, what did I do wrong? And because they did nothing wrong. So I think it's important for leadership to be consistent. This is not about, I will tell you that, again, been a cop a long time, and even good cops make mistakes sometimes. And when you make a mistake, it shouldn't start off with, you're going to get disciplined or whatever. First mistakes that people make, and it depends on the nature of the mistake and all that sort of thing. But all of these accountability measures that we're putting in, I want it to start with training. Then if the people make mistakes, then counseling, just say, hey, you did this. And then you would, after that, you would get into, okay, well, do we need to look at some sort of discipline or whatever? But I think training and counseling are where the emphasis needs to be as we add additional accountability measures where officers, might find themselves, gee, I looked at my phone momentarily when I wasn't supposed to be looking at my phone. And, okay, well, you understand why you don't do that. Don't do it. And so we're trying to be reasonable with these measures and not punitive with these measures.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's also not lost on me what you just said, that when officers feel like they're appreciated, they do a better job. And if you could do anything, it would be to make sure they know that we appreciate them. So I've got 1 minute left on the record. I just want to say how much I appreciate what you all do and the professionalism of the officers that I interact with every day. And I hope that you will convey that back to your team. And I hope whoever your predecessor is will work with us to make sure that we have a good working relationship, because we all work here in the same place together every day.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I second what Ms. Malloy's comments. Obviously, we here, members, all my colleagues do appreciate the service of our Capitol Police officers, and we want to make sure that we address some of the things that have happened, but we agree 100%. Capitol Police officers have done an amazing job, and I've always felt safe here because of the hard work that they do for us and for our constituents. So thank you for taking time today. And again, I apologize for being late. Obviously, we were trying to honor a past chair of this committee who a lot of us hold in pretty high regard, and that ended up not working out, so I think they're going to reschedule for the end of the week. But if there are no further questions, thank you for, your service, and congratulations on your retirement and for testifying here today. And thank you to all our Capitol Police officers who are here and those who are out working. And members may submit any additional questions for the record, and this committee now stands adjourned.